Good morning, our dear listeners at home.
All right, fantastic. Good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, very good to be here.
Hope you had a great week.
Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful. All right. Moving on from last week's discussion, there's no way we'll talk about this week without just pointing a few things out from last week's discussion. As we proceed, I'm sure they'll unfold.
Yeah.
But we also know that these men who have occupied or done things in northeastern Nigeria for the past years, these men who have been killing Christians and Muslims, these men who have been killing the old and the young, these men who have brainwashed people into believing that if you kill in the name of Islam, you'll go to heaven. These men that have so many affiliates in different parts of the world, by the way, who have funding, who have mercenaries willing to go out there and sacrifice their lives for them. These men also go as far as occupying territory and calling these territories caliphate, not just here in Nigeria, but also outside Nigeria, in Iran, in Iraq, they've done this thing. So we're looking at what Islam has said about occupying territory, especially illegal occupation of territory. So once again, good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. So how do we start?
Well, I think the way to start is to let our viewers, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, realize that Islam has not asked anybody to go and take territories. But basically, the Muslim, he feels more comfortable living under an Islamic government because that's what he believes in.
Okay.
It's just like the average American believes the best form of government is what? A democracy. So wherever he lives, if it's not democratic, he will not be happy because he believes rights that he should have will not be given to him.
Right.
But does it mean if he lives in a place where there's no democracy, must he now be actively working against the government there? Is that what he's supposed to do? No. He has to submit himself to what is obtainable in that environment he finds himself.
Okay.
So as much as the Muslims would like to live under an Islamic government, but wherever they find themselves, what Islam expects them to do is to live within the laws of that environment. Except when that environment commands them to do what is evil. Say, for example, you live in a country, the country tells you that you must divorce your wife. You won't follow such law. You live in a country, the country says it's compulsory, you must consume alcohol. You won't follow that kind of law. But other than that, when the laws that are there are favorable to humanity, you comport yourself. Now, I said something. I said Islam expects wants Muslims to live under an Islamic government. But the prerogative for establishing that government is that of the Almighty. Because we don't have the power to establish it. Okay. This is one of the major things that some Muslims, and majorly those people who are busy with this so-called fundamentalism, that they haven't gotten right. They think that, since it's good to live under an Islamic government, then I must work to undermine the existing government to achieve that. And that is far from the truth. Now, like I told you, our point is to educate Muslims. And therefore, I'm going to the Quran now.
Yeah.
In Quran chapter 4, verse 53, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of God, declares how an Islamic government can be formed. It's not our business. It's his business. He gave us responsibility and he has no responsibility. Let me quote the verse for you. Allah says, he says, وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَا يَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. He said, I have made a promise to those who believe among you and who carry out righteous deeds, that I will establish them in the land. I will give them authority in the land. Who is going to give the Muslims? The Almighty. Right. He said, I will establish them in the land the way I established those who came before them. Meaning, the prerogative of establishing an Islamic government is that of the Almighty. He is one that will bring about the enabling environment for it to be established. And not that the Muslim is under instruction or obligation to be working against the enclave where he lives, particularly to the point of now what? Disrupting social activities, killing people, and making life unbearable for people. When you do that, you are even insulting God. Because through that one, people are going to say that this God that is asking people to be violent, to destabilize the existing order, that can be a good God, and therefore you will make people to hate God. So fundamentally, like I said, in that verse I just quoted, God said he will be the one that will establish the Islamic government for the people. Now, what did he ask the Muslims to do? In the next verse, he said, what are the Muslims supposed to do? They have to establish Salah, that's what we do, to pay Zakat, and then to obey God. Which means all the Muslims are required to do if they want an Islamic government, is to live an exemplary Muslim life. I have always made this claim that if non-Muslims know what Islam really is, even if they do not become Muslims, they will respect it. But non-Muslims don't know Islam. They will not read about Islam. They will read Muslims. And the Muslims are carrying out dastard actions that make people to hate Islam. Yeah. So nobody wants to know about Islam. Nobody wants to come in. So bottom line, the responsibility the Muslim has is to live an exemplary life. If he lives the way Islam has asked him to live, non-Muslims will what? Will see him for what he is and will respect him. Okay, so the idea that you have to carry arms, like what Boko Haram said they were doing in northern Nigeria, they are trying to declare an Islamic state by force, by killing people. And if you go back to our Prophet Muhammad, how we established the first Islamic state in Medina, is that what happened? He was living in Mecca. In Mecca, he was calling the people to stop worshipping idols, to stop watching 360 gods who were worshipping in Kaaba that time. That there's only one God. Of course, they laughed at him. They said, we are worshipping 360 gods. They are not sufficient for us. We can see these idols. Now you ask us to believe in just one God that cannot be seen. Come on. What you have brought is a very strange thing. So because of that one, not only did he ask them to believe in God, he told them not to kill innocent people, not to be wicked to the orphans, to take care of weak people, men, old women, and what have you. He gave them plenty good teachings, but they didn't like that because they saw that people were following him and their own ways were being abandoned. What did they do? They worked against him leaving Mecca. They sought to evict him from Mecca in a process that we call the Hijrah, which is the Western people call it Hijrah. It's actually called Hijrah. The migration from Mecca to Medina. When Mecca was not conducive, they were killing the Muslims.
This idol worshippers were killing.
Yeah, these idols were killing the Muslims. So God told him to go to Medina. In Medina, there was an existing order there, but when he got there, his moral authority prevailed, and all of them unanimously agreed to his what? To his leadership, because they saw someone who was super exemplary, somebody they could follow.
So when he left Mecca for Medina, he didn't go there with soldiers to ransack and take over the place.
He didn't die. No. And that's why when he was coming, they welcomed him. At that time, one man was the person that people were thinking they were going to follow. His name was Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. But when they saw a superior person, somebody who in everything he stood for, he was a blessing to humanity. Like God says about all his prophets. People followed him. This man didn't like it. Are you following me? So, ask these Muslims or any non-Muslim, have they read that when Prophet was going to Medina, he went there with arms or force? Or that when he got there, he asked people to what? Compulsively follow him or kill him? But no. But through his teachings, through his exemplary life and character, they saw that this was a man that was worthy to be followed. And even then, after they unanimously agreed that should be their leader, did he take it by force? No. He consulted all the communities that were there. And they formed what we call a constitution. What we call a constitution. Something similar to the, what do you call that thing? That thing that they said is precursor to all laws in the world now. What is that? The Magna Carta.
The Magna Carta.
You know the Magna Carta?
Okay.
The Magna Carta is supposed to be a conglomeration of ideas of how to we regulate ourselves. That's what he did with all the community that he found in Medina. Remember, the Jews were a large community in Medina. So he consulted them. He consulted the indigenous Arabs that were there, and they formed that law. Him being recognized as their leader. There was no bloodshed, no violence.
So even the Jews who had a different religious,
they followed him because they saw the exemplary character that this man was. That's why all the Muslims have to do. I'm enjoying my brothers who are listening to me now. Go read chapter 24, verse 53 and 54 and 55. You will see there. All you have to do is what? Be an exemplary Muslim. When you're an exemplary Muslim, people will flock to you because you see your life has become beneficial to them. Now, number two, the second thing, what Allah said in Quran chapter 22, verse 41. Okay, if it happened that the Muslims are given power, what are they going to do? Is it to force people to become Muslims? No. God said, Alladhina imma kannahum fil ardi aqamu salata wa atau zakata wa amaru bil ma'ruf. Allah said, the Muslims, if we give them authority in the land, if they are in authority, what are they supposed to do? For those who are Muslims, they will command them to observe the Salah.
Okay.
They will pay the alms due, what we call zakat,
okay,
where we take from the riches of those who are wealthy and give to those who are what? Less privileged. And then they will enforce goodness. No evil will be done. Nobody will be forced to do a faith or to embrace a faith different from his own.
Because again, Imam Shafi'i, it's very important you actually clear the air on this one, because we've seen cases outside the country where these men take hostages, ask them to swear allegiance to the Muslim faith, and if they don't do that, they kill them. We've had cases as well where some of this, of course, reports coming through, some of the girls that were kidnapped or taken away and were forced into Islam. Such reports have come through. So again, it's so for people out there who see it as a Muslim thing, that when I force people to to see things my way from my religious point of view, it becomes very easy for that to sink in, because you see people who are doing this in the name of Islam. But this is what you're trying to point out, that Islam doesn't force you to make somebody else a believer. But again, Islam encourages you to convince somebody to see Islam
to proselytize.
Okay.
You remember I mentioned last week that if the Almighty, the Omnipotent, has the power to force us, he didn't force us. Why will a human being want to force somebody else? One of the most popular verses in the Quran, Quran chapter 2, verse 255, where God says, La ikraha fid din, there is no compulsion in religion. You can't force anybody to serve anybody. One of the common things again we see around, which is a subtle way of forcing people. When a Muslim man marries a non-Muslim woman, he marries a Christian, he say, you want to come and become a Muslim. It's a very, very popular rampant among Muslim men. It's very wrong. You shouldn't force a woman because she married to become a Muslim. If she wants to, it's her business. If she does not want to, you let her be.
But are Muslims encouraged to marry non-Muslims?
Muslims are permitted to marry. Muslim men are permitted to marry non-Muslim women.
Okay.
But if you marry her, you knew she was a Christian, for example, or whatever, before marrying her, you must not force her. If she sees the beauty of your faith, if you are an exemplary Muslim, she sees she wants to become a Muslim, and we have cases of that, no problem. But for you to say, you know, I'm a Muslim now, you must come and become a Muslim. Nobody has sent you that. Why will you force her to go against her will? Besides, to truly serve God requires what? Conviction. To truly serve God, you must really agree that, oh, this is the Almighty, this is laws he has made, they are worthy to be followed. You can't force anybody. And that is why anybody that is forced to become anything, a Muslim or what have you, it never works, it never lasts. I know many cases of Muslim brothers, men, who force their wife to become non-Muslims. If they die before such wife, where would the wife go? She's go back to Christianity because she was never convinced. You only forced her, and nobody has asked to force her. I'm talking about this tacit forcing through marriage. Talk less of the one you say, oh, you must become a Muslim. We were told that the Boko Haram people, that some of those girls that were kidnapped were forced. That in itself shows that they were not representing Islam, because Islam has not asked anybody to force anybody to become a Muslim. If you want, you be. If not, you don't be. All of us go and meet the Almighty.
Imam Shafi'i, it's fascinating. The Christian faith advises Christians not to marry people of a different faith. It's actually in the Bible. You're not supposed to marry somebody of a different faith. But of course, we know this happens. And when it does happen, you're encouraged to make that person to believe that, look, the Christian faith is the real faith, is the true faith. But so it's amazing. You have these two different religions that their take on marrying non-adherents to that faith very different. And again, it's important we're having this conversation because many people out there don't know these things. We either get our facts about Islam or about Christianity from movies, from other books apart from the Quran or the Bible, or from what people out there say. So again, looking at this, it's important again that we emphasize that those who are adherents of this faith should preach the right thing or teach the right thing to their followers. Because if these men who are carrying out such things, who are forcing people to join us to become Muslims, are doing this in the name of Islam, something is wrong. Something is missing. Either they're reading it the wrong way around, or somebody somewhere is telling them this is the real thing.
You know, sometimes,
or perhaps are there different denominations to Islam that maybe teach this?
There are no denominations in Islam. That's one of the things that makes Islam to be different and unique. There are no denominations.
So even when you hear the Shiites and you hear the Sunni,
now I will clarify that one. But before I go in there, you know that it is never, like I said last week, everybody cannot be Muslims, everybody cannot be Christians. And a Muslim is not everywhere he finds himself that will find himself under an Islamic government. Nigeria is not an Islamic state. If I live in America, there are many Muslims who are living in America. They are living under a non-Islamic government. What does Islam ask them to do? Is it to be rebelling against the government? No. Islam has outlawed every kind of rebellion against the government, even if the government is bad.
Because the views that the government has been put there by God and by Allah himself.
By God.
Okay.
Listen, you know why? apart from the fact that nobody gets authority except by the power of God. God says that in Quran chapter 3 verse 18, that we should say, Kul Allahumma malikal mulk, tutil mulka man tasha, wa tanzil mulka mimman tasha. Meaning, all Muslims are supposed to say, after believing that, oh God, you are the King of Kings, the owner of authority. You put whoever you want in power, and you remove whoever you want from power. So in Islam believes that anybody who is in power, whether he got there rightly or wrongly, it is because God permitted it. But more importantly, if you rebel against people who are in power, the people who are in power have the power. They are in power because they have what? Power. What do?
They use the power.
They kill you. You see, most of this thing that happened, what the world came to term the Arab Spring, they were evil from the angle of Islam. Because all these places, what happened during the Arab Spring? People died. These Muslims in these Muslim countries, they were influenced by ideas alien to Islam and ignorance. Because they felt their governments were not good, so they rebelled against them. What happened? People died in thousands. Till today, Libya has not stabilized. Libya has not stabilized. Tunisia, all these places. And how did ISIS came about? Because people said Assad was a bad leader. Agreed, he didn't do his people well. So rebellion against him led to the waning of the power of Assad. And from there, ISIS came. And now ISIS has become a menace to the world. So bottom line, what our prophet told us, they asked him pointedly, if we live under a government, Islamic or non-Islamic, that is bad, that is not giving us our rights. This is Sahih Muslim. He said, what you do? He said, Tuwadun al-haqq alladhi alaykum. What asalun Allah alladhi lakum. He said, fulfill the duties that are upon you as a member of that state or that country.
Okay. And
your own rights, you ask God. Because most times when people have bad leaders, it's a reflection of at least two things. Number one, it's a reflection of what you the followers are. Our prophet also told us, he said, Kaifa takunu yu Allah alaykum. The way you are, so shall we appoint leaders for you. Nigeria, my brother Daniel, one of the reasons why we're having problem in Nigeria, and all of us are complaining about the leaders. These leaders that have ruled out that we are saying they are bad, are they from Cameroon? They are from Togo. They are from US. They are Nigerians. Islam maintains that the way you are will be a reflection of what? Of your leader. So it's like if you have like 100 eggs or 100 orange in a basket, and 5 is good, 95 is bad. What's the chance that if you're going to be picking one to represent the to represent the basket, you're going to pick good ones? Yeah. Most times you're going to pick the bad ones. And that is why if all of us want Nigeria to be good, we have to be good. APC is talking about change. Forget APC. You be the change. Every Nigerian should be an agent of change. Change what? Change from everything you know to be bad to everything you know to be what? To be good. Because if all of us continue to be corrupt, without corruption, the average Nigerian is corrupt. Not all of us. There are good ones, but the good ones are not many. So, since in your democracy, when you vote, what happens? Somebody comes out. If most of the people are bad, the person that will come out will be what?
And democracy is a game of numbers.
It's a game of numbers. And so if the bad people vote for the bad person, you continue to have that. The second reason is that sometimes God wants us to see what we are doing that it is bad. So the leader victimizes us for us to retrace ourselves and say, why are we not good? It hardly will ever happen that the people will be good and they will have a bad leader. It hardly will happen.
Okay, Imam Shafi'i, let's come back to why we have these misconceptions and why people who are practicing Muslims, some people and some of these men carrying out these things in the name of Islam. So I asked earlier, do we have different denominations? You said no, Islam is one.
Yeah.
So when you hear the Shiites and you hear the Sunni, and again, is it a difference in denomination, in beliefs, or perhaps what exactly is the difference?
What we have in Islam, we have sects.
Okay.
We're not happy that it's there, but even our prophet prophesied that it will happen. Okay. How do sects come about? Sects come about when they refuse to follow the dictates of the deen as it is in the Quran and what we call the apostolic tradition, the hadith. They are very straightforward. But there are people who deliberately not want to follow what is inside it. They remove or they subtract. When they do so, by doing so, once you remove or subtract from any of the teachings of Islam, as it is extant in the Quran and the apostolic traditions, you have become what? A sect. Because you have deviated now. You work in 92.3 AIM or whatever your name of the company is. Yeah. When you came here to work, they gave you a set of rules.
That's right.
If you decide to work outside those set of rules, what will the company do? They let you go.
That's right.
And if it is criminal, you are prosecuted. So you cannot say, okay, I've been employed, so I'm free to do whatever I want as a staff of Nigeria Info.
No.
You are not. You have to abide. So if you say you are a Muslim, that's why you can't just, that's why I say you can't be a Muslim by force. Before you are a Muslim, you look into the faith. These are what it teaches. Are you satisfied with it? Are you agree that these are, what you call it, beautiful ways to live life? If so, then you comply. Once you remove or you add anything to the faith, particularly in the creed, then you become a sect. And there are many sects. One of the most dominant sects in the Muslim world are the Shiites. We didn't come here to talk about Shiites, but they are a sect.
Okay.
And because they are a sect, it means that they have what? Removed and added to the extant teachings of Islam.
So will it be safe for us to say that those who are doing these things, killing in the name of Islam, occupying territory in the name of Islam, have actually formed a sect that believe that such things are permissible in Islam?
God bless you. They have become a different group, like a group within a group. The reason why we don't completely remove them is that after all, they see say that statement we make, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you see them praying. Yeah. Therefore, you as a Muslim and a non-Muslim who still believes they what? It's a Muslim. It's like Ku Klux Klan. You know Ku Klux Klan in America? Were they Christians?
Well, yeah,
they were Christians.
They were Christians.
But does the Bible ask them to do that thing they are doing?
No.
If a Muslim wants to be unjust,
they were Christians because the symbol was even a cross.
Yes, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. If a Muslim wants to be unjust, he begins to blame Christianity for what Ku Klux Klan, and they did great evil in America, if you know, to black people.
That's right.
Are you following me?
That's right.
And they used to try to quote from the Bible to justify what they are doing. But the same person knows that the Bible didn't ask them to discriminate again on the basis of what? Of color. But if I want to be unjust as a Muslim, I blame Christianity for Ku Klux Klan. Unfortunately, this is what people now do. When people who say they are Muslims do terrible acts, you should sanction them, you condemn them for what they are doing. But people don't do that. What do? They condemn Islam. It's a pity that right now Islam is in the forefront. Most of these things that are happening are being carried out by people who say they are Muslims. But people who have knowledge of history know that other faiths have had their adherents carrying out destruction on the human race. Are you following me now? So that's why, like I told you last week, we as Muslims have that duty. Nobody will do it. We have the duty to educate Muslims, more importantly, and the non-Muslims to say, this is what the faith is. Whatever is not part of the faith, take it out of it. And if you try to bring it in, we are supposed to be the last guy, the last line of defense to say no. And that's why I'm here. That's why we were here last week. We'll be here next week and the week after to start this series of enlightenment and discussions. You are aware I told you I have a program on another station that I do every Friday since 2008. Are you following me? We're trying to increase the reach out so that, because I believe the more people know, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, the better we are going to be, and we're able to live in peace together. How long do we have to live in this world that we have to be clean ourselves and be fighting all the time?
You know, Imam Shafi'i, last week you made a very valid point. You said, and I think you were very bold to actually mention that. You said the problem we're having in Islam is that those who are supposed to be teachers of the religion, of the faith, are not teaching the right way. They don't know. So So my question is, are there symposium organized? Are there teaching sessions organized for imams across the state, imams across the country, to know the proper things to teach, to start from the point of view of knowledge, as we discussed last week? Are such things happening?
Before I answer that question, if you don't know about broadcasting, but you have convinced yourself you know about broadcasting, if somebody comes to say you want to teach you, what will you tell the person?
It's very hard for me to understand.
Get out! What are you telling me? I'm a professional. I'm an expert. What do you want to teach? What do you know?
I've done this for 20 years.
I'm doing what do you know? So people who don't know, but who think they know, there are words that people who don't know, but who agree that what? They don't know. The one who does not know and the agree does not know, he will listen. But the one who does not know, but he thinks he knows, he ain't going to listen to you because he thinks he knows. That's the problem. So, but bottom line on that, we are trying our best to make sure that, listen, the way to do it is not even to gather the so-called imams. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is make the average Muslim educated about this faith. When he is educated, the ignorant imam wants to teach him something. He tells him, oh boy, what you are saying is not true. He quotes the Quran. He quotes the hadith for that imam. What would the imam do? He keeps quiet and he does not follow him.
So I have a message here, Imam Shafi'i. I think you need to say this.
Yeah, no problem.
Says, we had a total wrong impression about Islam. If we have people like your guest educating us about Islam, we can accept it. And if cares not again, I can be a Muslim. The picture painted is a picture of hate and wickedness. Let the Islamic clerics do more for us to accept this religion. That's a message.
God bless him. We are trying to do what you are suggesting to reach out more. And I'm even hoping, like I told you, that after the 4 weeks we arrange, maybe we can do more. We are hoping. You understand? We are hoping. Because I told you it pains us more than you. Because I'm the one whose name and whose faith is being soiled. So I have more responsibility and obligation to clear, to demystify, if you may use the word.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. Finally, Imam Shafi'i, one word that comes all the time, that creeps up all the time, is jihad. When you hear jihad, what does that mean exactly in the Islamic context?
The next week, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
The issue of taking of life, because it's jihad they use as a pretext
to take life. Okay.
And it's perhaps the one that is the most burning of these issues on this matter.
Yeah.
It is outrageous that human being can decide, you see a fellow human being, the life you did not create, the life like your own, and you take it. It's out. I don't even know the word to use. It's alarming. You understand now? Jihad simply means an effort. The word jihad means what? An effort.
Okay.
So, for example, if to say you are a Muslim, the way you come here every day, like you come 5 o'clock, that's a jihad. Why? Because that's an effort towards achieving something good to take care of your family. That's a jihad. What I'm doing right now, educating the Muslim and alike, is jihad. So every good thing that you do in consonance with the directive of God is jihad.
Fantastic. But
we'll do more on it.
Let's leave it at that. There's one thing I'm taking away from this conversation is this. If you're out there, you're not happy with the leadership, your call, what you're supposed to be doing is
go
to
learn.
be a good Muslim. All right. Yeah. That's the only way. And then let God is going to put authority, that God is going to can take out people or put people in place. It's not your position. It's not by you taking territory or saying you're doing this in the name of Islam.
No.
That is not what you've been called.
No.
Fantastic.
Live the life of a Muslim. Be a true Muslim.
All right. So next week Saturday we'll be looking at what Islam has said about taking lives. If I thought to say anything about taking lives, and if these men who do these things in the name of Islam are doing the right thing. All right. All the best to you, Imam Shafi'i. Next week Saturday will be another date with you. Message is pouring in for you, by the way. But like we said, this is for enlightenment purposes strictly. Maybe later on
let's promise them that maybe the last one, the fourth one, will give room for questions.
We'll be looking at Muslim relation with
general people.
General people. Fantastic. Joy Berry is standing by with the World News. She'll take
something good to take care of your family. That's a jihad. What I'm doing right now, educating the Muslim and alike, is jihad. So every good thing that you do in consonance with the directive of God is jihad.
Fantastic.
But we'll do more on it.
Let's leave it at that. There's one thing I'm taking away from this conversation is this. If you're out there, you're not happy with the leadership, your call, what you're supposed to be doing is
go
to
learn.
be a good Muslim. All right. Yeah. That's the only way. And then let God is going to put authority, that God is going to can take out people or put people in place. It's not your position. It's not by you taking territory or saying you're doing this in the name of Islam. That is not what you've been called.
No.
Fantastic.
Live the life of a Muslim. Be a true Muslim.
All right. So next week Saturday we'll be looking at what Islam has said about taking lives. If I thought to say anything about taking lives, and if these men who do these things in the name of Islam are doing the right thing. All right. All the best to you, Imam Shafi'i. Next week Saturday will be another date with you. Message is pouring in for you, by the way. But like we said, this is for enlightenment purposes strictly. Maybe later on
let's promise them that maybe the last one, the fourth one, will give room for questions.
We'll be looking at Muslim relation with
general people.
General people. Fantastic. Joy Berry is standing by with the World News. She'll take